Kilowatts. Today we're recording with the Out of Spec Motoring team, who just recently set the cross-country Cannonball record in an EV with the Porsche Taycan on the Electrify America network. We're joined by Drew, Timon, and Kyle, and I just want to give them a chance to introduce themselves. We're going to cover everything from why they chose the Porsche Taycan to kind of what their experience was like and what they see as the future for electric vehicle road tripping and long-distance driving. So I'm going to go ahead and have you guys introduce yourself. Let's go ahead and get, we'll start with Kyle and Timon.
All right. Hey, I'm Kyle, and we have Out of Spec Studios here. We're based in Fort Collins, Colorado now. We provide automotive content across multiple platforms, written and video, for anything to do with cars, trucks, SUVs, off-road, on-road, and with a huge focus in electric mobility, of course. So we do a lot of battery electric channels. Timon has just taken over and started to run for us the electric performance channel. So we have a channel dedicated to performance electric driving. A few other exciting things happening, of course, and this is what we do on a daily basis here in Colorado. Timon.
And I'm Timon, and I'm the main videographer and photographer for Out of Spec Studios.
Okay, great. And then you had a third. Let's go ahead and introduce Drew.
Yeah, so my name is Drew Peterson. Work for or have worked for many different automotive outlets and companies throughout my career, and I'm now very electric car focused, running MartianWheels.com, which is a Tesla aftermarket parts and wheels company. And got connected with Kyle and Out of Spec Motoring quite a while ago, and have been doing some fun adventures with them, including this Taycan Cannonball Run.
All right, awesome. So let's just kind of jump into it. Like, how did this group get kind of pulled together? And I guess I've got kind of the camera shared, so Kyle and Timon, you might have to get close. But would you guys kind of just tell me, I remember Kyle reaching out to me a few months ago, mentioning that this was kind of a possibility that you guys were considering doing this Cannonball Run. And so I guess, can you jump into kind of why the Taycan? I mean, I know Martian Wheels is primarily a Tesla brand. I actually briefly had some Martian Wheels on my Model Y. So can you guys tell me kind of like why the Porsche Taycan, why now?
Sure. So this was an idea, I've been trying to do for a while. I really wanted, well, first off, I love my Tesla. I'm a, Tesla fan. I think it's amazing what they've done. I've owned multiple cars now, but, and there is a big but, I really do truly believe Tesla owners have been ignoring what's happening in the rest of the market. We have new automakers coming to the scene. We have older legacy, quote unquote, automakers building EVs for the first time, and I think they kind of lose the on-paper wars against Tesla. But as the saying goes, you don't drive cars on paper. So the idea was Taycan can charge faster than Model 3 or Model S. It can do 270 kilowatt peak. The other thing about Taycan that I've learned in my testing is EPA range rating is just wrong. This car has a higher range than my Tesla Model 3 Performance by a long shot cruising on the highway. And part of that's due to this range mode in the Taycan, where it can lower all the way, physically decouple the rear drive unit, and runs front wheel drive up to 94 miles an hour. And that's really efficient. So we're like, well, ignore the EPA numbers for a second. Let's look at the highway efficiency that we've done in our testing. We'll put that in with our DC fast charging curve that we've logged on the car. And we're like, hey, if everything's good, this car should be able to beat our electric Cannonball record, New York to Los Angeles, which was 45 hours, 16 minutes. And we, like, the Taycan would do it. But the big question was, can the network support it? And this was a question all the way up to the day before the drive. Like, we're, I don't think, no one's had this much of an ambition to get across the country in this short period of time on Electrify America before. It's really a stress test. And that's the whole point of this run was, can it support it? And if the answer is yes, then, well, what are all these Tesla people saying that you can't get around? I mean, that's what it comes down to. And so it's not to prove one or the other. It's not to say the Porsche is better than the Tesla. It's not to say the other way around. It's just, here's our facts. This is what we did. We pushed as hard as we could on our Tesla run. We pushed as hard as we could on the Porsche run. The Porsche run was a lot colder outside, terrible conditions, snow, rain. and it was still faster. So something has to be said for that.
Absolutely. And I would say, yeah, with my experience, I've done the Cannonball Run back in 2017. I briefly held the record. As I think Alex Roy did it just a few months later, while he still beat me, he was trying much harder in the cold weather. And so I guess, yeah, that's kind of the biggest surprise to me when I saw your record, because I would have thought, if anyone's going to attempt it, they're at least going to wait till the spring. And traditionally it's something that's done in the fall. I kind of want to reiterate, why now? Is it just because you realized the network was ready? Because you said you were waiting up until the day that you guys left. What was the incentive to do it of all days? New Year's Day was traffic lower? What was the thought there?
No, actually, we thought traffic was going to be worse. We thought police was going to be worse because of patrol for drunk driving, especially at night. We just happened to have the car at the time. We've been working with Porsche to get this specific spec of Taycan. Certainly, we've tested other Taycans, but I really wanted a Taycan on the aero wheels in sort of the most efficient configuration. And it's difficult to get that out of a press fleet because they want the cars to look good, of course, and they go to track testing and everyone wants to drive the Porsche fast. We're like, no, we want to do that, yes, and we have, but we also want to showcase the range and ability of the car if spec'd properly. So we got one on 19-inch aero wheels. We had it all lined up and we're like, great, but it's the middle of winter, so do we still do this? And the answer was yes, we should still do this. The whole December 31st leave time was based around some of my travel plans that I had. It just fit in with the schedule. And we actually got super lucky that, we basically had a day to move it forward or back on either side. We ended up moving it right where it originally was planned because we ended up missing most of the weather across the country. It was cold, but very little headwinds, which wind really affects it more than the cold weather once it's warmed up. And we got super lucky with weather. So the reason we did it in the winter was availability of the car. And the charging network's been there for a year. Nothing's new here. We could have done this 6 months ago and had the same result probably.
All right, awesome. So I guess I also want to hear from some other members of the team. Can you guys tell me kind of what was your thoughts when I don't think either of you have previously completed a Cannonball Run, and so I'd love to hear from you about what were your thoughts when you when Kyle kind of called you into this, when he said, hey, we're going to do this in the winter, and were you guys there helping to chart out the run or choose destinations, or was it kind of like Kyle with his previous experience taught you guys how it's done?
It was Kyle that basically taught us how it's done. He had a chart of basically every stop we were going to make. But since his last run, I've been wanting to do one because I was jealous of the first run he did in the Model 3. And as soon as he brought it up, I was 100% down to join. But now looking back at it, it was a lot longer than I expected it to be.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, and Kyle, I think probably I don't know, maybe a month ago or so, mentioned wanting to do this run, and so we sat down and looked at the numbers. I think started with a better route planner to just get the basics or a rough idea of how long it should take, and then factored in the good charging time or ideal charging time, and the numbers worked out to where it should have been able to beat the Model 3 time. And so, from that point, I was like, cool, I'm in. I had never done one before. Yep. And so just doing the Cannonball Run, in the first place is, was attractive to me. But it sounded a lot easier than it ultimately was. I think Kyle did a good job of selling it to me.
Setting expectations well.
Yeah.
So I guess, to expand on that, tell me more about what it was actually like. I've now attempted this 3 times. The first time I was successful, but I was successful because no one else realized kind of what was possible with the Model 3 in the early days. So I was able to drive relatively slowly. and get across faster than the previous record held, I think, by Jordan Hart and that Tesla team, because they had used a 85D Model S. I used the Model 3, which, as we all know now, charges faster than especially those early Model S's. But I guess, yeah, tell me more about that experience. Like, you had these expectations that, like, oh, it's just a long drive. Kind of what surprised you about this, and kind of what would you kind of say is like kind of words of caution maybe for anyone that gets convinced by someone like Kyle in the future?
I think some comfortable seats would be great.
Sure.
Not that the Taycan seats are bad, but after 30 hours, it gets a little stiff.
Sure. And did you sleep
Yeah,
while you were?
they're definitely. Yeah, there's sport seats. Yes, we did sleep in the car. Yeah, I think everybody slept a little bit in the front seat and a little bit in the back seat. Yeah, they had the massaging option, which helped. But yeah, pretty firm for 40 plus hours. Yeah, I think I'm still feeling it.
All right, I do have to chime in about the seat conversation. There are multiple spec of seats you can get in your Taycan. We had the power 14-way option with massage. You can get a 8, 14, or 18-way seat. So perhaps the 18-way seats would have been more comfortable for our journey. Who knows?
Of course. But at the end of the day, if sitting in your car for 30 plus hours, it gets uncomfortable, that's pretty reasonable as well. So definitely, I can imagine the Taycan as as I saw you guys mentioning early on, it was like, what a luxurious car to do this in. Relatively speaking, the Model S is kind of a fine luxury car. I wouldn't even necessarily fully qualify it as a luxury car, especially when compared to something like a Taycan. The Model 3, much lesser so. The luxury is kind of more built into the convenience of things like autopilot, which, in some of my attempts, like especially that first one, we were using autopilot pretty heavily to kind of just make the drive easier and smoother. But this was, I'm guessing, was a pretty hands-on drive. Can you tell me more about what was that experience like, and then maybe even expand that into like the actual charging network? So like kind of what was maybe some of the more difficult parts of getting across the country?
Probably, well, at the beginning, dealing with the snow and being on summer tires was not the best situation to be in.
I didn't know you were in summer tires.
Let me clarify that, because no one knows we had snow.
Oh yeah.
For the first leg, we knew the weather was going to be bad. Actually, it was for the first 2 legs of the trip. Basically, all the way to Ohio, we expected rain and mixed precip, and it turned out there was a little bit more snow than that was projected. We kind of were doing a couple little slidies in the Taycan, but kind of on purpose for fun, but also like it wasn't great. So we had to keep speeds really slow once we got into Pennsylvania. So if any law enforcement from Pennsylvania is watching, we did not break any laws in your state.
Wonderful.
So that's the first bit. Yeah, we had summer tires on snow.
Okay. And then I guess...
Oh, go ahead.
I was just thinking, like, to expand on that. Yeah. What else about your experience kind of was unexpected or potentially more challenging than you would have anticipated?
I think going through the Rockies, I mean, Drew killed that section. He can better explain it, but I think that was probably the sketchiest but best section of the trip.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, from first time Cannonballers point of view, obviously the length of time is one thing, but I guess the sense of urgency, the just relentless sense of urgency is something that definitely is there. It's essentially a race where every minute, is counted. And so, you can't waste time, can't really let up on your focus. So that definitely, for somebody that, is curious what a cannonball would be like, there's just this sort of like baseline of stress throughout the whole time. I mean, obviously, yeah, snow through Pennsylvania, and then everything was pretty clear. Weather was great. Really, even coming through the Rockies, the weather was great. Couple, icy snow patches where, could have been bad, but no, for the most part, just kept the speed up to as high of a level as we could while being safe, and just really monitoring how quick we can go and still make it to the next charger, essentially.
Great, yeah. And I remember when I first did it, I was pushing to the limits in the sense of range and limitations. The very, very first day I got my car, actually, the day after buying my car back in 2017, I drove to its limits. I ran it to 0 and I ran it beyond 0. And so did you ever have any experiences where, the Porsche display didn't look like you were going to make it and you either had to adjust or kind of there was like some reserve in the tank, just like, an old-fashioned ICE when you run it to empty, but it's still got just a little bit left in the tank?
So Volkswagen groups, sorry, go ahead, Drew.
So the calculation that the car was doing was good enough to where we could be monitoring it, and if the speed that we were doing wasn't going to allow us to get to the next charger, then essentially we would slow down and then be able to recuperate that those miles.
Right, and just to add on that, our Porsche did not have working navigation, nor did we have a good cell connection in the car because it had every issue you can imagine. Just software bugs here or there. The thing with Porsche's strategy is when you, and all Volkswagen Group e-trons the same way, I'm sure ID4 will be the same as well. When you run it to 0, they shut off at 0. And the whole car just, you got to pull over. Then you can restart the car, and there's another, 500, 700 watt hours somewhere at the bottom of the pack where you can get another mile or 2, depending on elevation. I think the most we've stretched it, not during the Cannonball, but afterwards was maybe 1.5 miles. Maybe not even that much, but it was straight uphill. Yeah. That was after the run. But so we never actually hit the vehicle shut off. It pretty much gives you full power, or at least good power, to 0. Because we had no navigation, we had no en route predictions as to what our arrival state of charge will be. So I printed out elevation maps of each individual legs. So we'd say, okay, we have a loss of 3,000 feet. Well, we don't even need to charge to what the guessometer says. We can charge 10 miles less, drive fast, and still make it. But if we have a gain of 5,000 feet, like we did in one of the Rocky Mountain sections, we were like, all right, let's just put 20, 30 miles of extra buffer in on the guessometer, because the Porsche only displays its predicted range based off your previous driving history, not off of rated like Tesla, and not future predicting because we didn't have the nav system working. And so it's just a lot of real-time calculations.
Absolutely. And was there someone as the primary calculator? Was that you, Kyle, being your past experience, or was it kind of a team effort on calculating that?
I think originally I did a lot of it, and these guys figured it out. I mean, Drew owns an EV. Timon is still coming around to EVs. But I think we all kind of got into the groove. We learned the Porsche together, and we figured it out. And it was all pretty much an equal debate between the three of us as to, should we unplug now? What should we do next? Should we skip a charger? All of these conversations were happening in real time, because much of our original route planning was good, but of course you don't know what it's like till you're on the road. You need to make those decisions right on the spot.
Absolutely. And it helps to have a good team, a good set of teammates. I've only ever done this with one other individual. And in my experience, it's really helped to be like, okay, we're all on the same page about how we're approaching this. Our goals are as such and whatnot. And so I guess I'd love to hear from each of you kind of like, what is your inspiration for doing this? Was it just like, oh, this seems like a cool way to spend my New Year's Eve, given, I'm not going to be going out, might as well spend it with my two friends? Or is there kind of a deeper kind of sentiment and a deeper meaning for why you would do something like this?
Drew, why don't you go first?
Yeah, it sounded fun. That's number one for me. Yeah.
Fun is good. Fun is a big one.
Wasn't going to be seeing family. Had some time. I like fast cars. Yep, that's about it.
Okay.
For me, I mean, we left from my parents' house basically, And I'd already seen my friends, so it didn't really matter to me. And it seemed like fun. I've always wanted to do one, either if it wasn't an EV or a gas car. But it was also, I was very interested because it was not a Tesla, and I wanted to see us beat the Tesla record.
Is that because you don't like Teslas?
Not necessarily, but also yes.
There you go. And my whole side really was not for fun. I actually don't enjoy cannonballs. I mean, imagine staying up for 2 days and then constantly driving like you're late for work. Is pretty much the best way to put it. You're just in a rush, like Drew said. There's an underlying stress level, a lot at stake here. We're pretty much the flag bearers for the entire CCS network right now.
Now you are,
is
yeah.
what it felt like. Because they've been hit, and rightly so, hit with negative stories from me as well. We'll give them crap where that's needed, but like we were like, well, no one's testing this network, so we have to. And that was the whole reason for the run. The run was not, look, I can go 10 minutes faster than my previous run. Who cares at that point? Like, we all know Teslas can go fast across the country. We all know you can incrementally improve on that time. Does it really matter? No, unless you're doing something crazy like under 40 hours. I'm kind of like, okay, well, we already know you can get across in a Tesla. So let's try CCS. And this is a whole new game. I mean, it shouldn't even be called the same thing, but it is, of course. It's just the Electric Cannonball Record. But that was the whole goal, was, is CCS good enough to do this? And the Taycan was the car to choose. We had no other option there. It's the best road trip configuration that we had of the Taycan. Terrible weather in terms of temperature, but this wasn't anything for fun. It was purely a story of CCS.
Yeah, well, I just want to say I appreciate you guys did that. Here at the Kilowatts, my major goal, my intent for doing everything I do is to help show people what's possible with electric vehicles, and I think it's incredible to see that you guys did the unexpected here. No one was really looking at doing this before, and then for you guys just to come out and set the record on with the Porsche Taycan on the CCS network, Electrify America. I think it's an incredible accomplishment, and I think we'll probably see this record continue down as the charging technology and battery technology kind of marches down and in cost and improves in quality and convenience. And appreciate you guys playing your part and telling that story.
Yeah, thanks so much for having
Yep,
us here as
absolutely.
well. And,